Hello and welcome to the Cheeky Science Show. So in this video, I'm going to discuss how to stay mentally grounded and in particular focusing on during a PhD. So why? Well, as you may or may not know, I am currently doing a PhD and I'm in my first year. And I think that one of the best ways to learn is from personal experience from other people. And so given that I have some experience now, I thought it'd be a good topic to talk about, particularly at this time of year when the weather, at least in the UK, can be a little bit grim at times. And given that I've still got quite a way to go until I finish my PhD. So the aim of this video then would be to discuss some of the advice that I have for trying to stay what I call mentally grounded. And as you can tell by this current animation of, well, what should be a brain on the ground wearing a PhD cap, there'll be some interesting animations to go along with these different bits of advice, but this is by no means a full list of different things that you can do. I'm up to listening to your feedback as well, and different things work for different people, so it's about finding what works for you, and I think that's the most important thing to take away from this video. So yes, I'll talk about some tips, give some advice, and try and promote a discussion where we can help each other out as well. So what do I actually mean when I say being mentally grounded? Well, one definition that I found was that mentally grounded is when you're facing reality rather than trying to believe what you want to believe. So what I mean by this is that you are present in the moment and not under any kind of false pretenses about what's happening in your work or life. Because I think in this current day and age, it's so easy to lose sight of what life is really all about, to have fun and to learn along the way. So my first bit of advice is to don't be a sheep. So what I mean by this is to don't always follow the crowd, don't feel that pressure to do something just because somebody else is doing it. And one good example of this is about how much time you might be spending at work. You might feel pressure or expectation to get there earlier or to stay there later than you feel like you would want to or need to. And that isn't a problem. You're not the same person, you're different. And if anything, you might just be using your time more efficiently. And speaking of efficiency, I have my own tips for how to make every moment worthwhile so that you don't waste time, because time is the most precious thing, especially during a PhD project. So how can you be more efficient then? So one really good tip is to literally plan your day before you go about it. It could be anything from 30 seconds to 2 minutes. Just jot down what you need to do that day, and then at least you have a plan of what you've got to get done. Secondly, remove distractions. Like, our phones are great, but they're also so distracting. And I can't really talk because I'm pretty bad at putting my phone in flight mode. I'm always distracted by it. And the last thing is to get in the flow. That's when we work most efficiently and we're free of distractions. And one recent tip I had to do this was to pick a song and to just listen to that song and repeat and repeat and repeat. And I tried this the other day and I actually didn't get sick of the song, surprisingly. I don't know how effective it was. Actually, I've done it. I think it's pretty effective if you choose the right song, that is. But anyway, going back to my first point, just don't compare yourself to somebody else. You have no idea what's going on with them as well. So just, don't compare yourself, full stop. So I actually scripted this video, which is something I don't always do, and I just put meditation. I don't really know what I was talking about with this one, but meditation, it's hard. I've tried it and it's very hard to stick to it, but if you can do it, it is actually really effective because you take just like 5 minutes and you get yourself so chill and in that kind of Zen state, in the present, or whatever it's called, and it could work for you. I just found it really hard to commit to. And so if you're like me and you do find it challenging, the alternative thing that I do is just to sit and think and appreciate the things that I can do in my life, like the fact that I am literally alive, the fact that I can see, I can smell, I can think, and how awesome actually is that. That's so awesome. And I think when you have that realization, it kind of puts everything into perspective. And so I definitely recommend doing that at least once a day, once a week. It will change your life, literally. Now, my next bit of advice is being able to turn negatives into positives. So this, I think, is more of a skill. It takes time to practice it and to get it to work because it's not necessarily easy. But one example would be to say something didn't work and you feel like you've just wasted a lot of time. which is definitely a negative. So how can you turn that into a positive? So if it means you have to repeat something again, that's a good thing, right? You know, practice makes perfect. Being able and having the opportunity to do something again just reinforces your ability to do something correctly, in which case that could save you more time downstream that you just don't realise at that moment. Another way you can deal with negatives is through journaling. Now, I used to watch this YouTuber quite a lot, and pretty much every video was at some point relevant to how great journaling is and how beneficial it can be for you to put your problems down and to work out solutions and to kind of go back to what I said before about gratitude and appreciating what you do have. And yeah, but this guy was just like, journaling's the solution. But there's different types of journaling. So it could be gratitude journaling, in which case you write down the things that you appreciate, but it could also be goal setting and just treat it like a diary as well. Just write down what happens during your day, what bits were great, what bits weren't so great. It really is up to you. Now, I used to write a diary when I was a teenager, and I mean, I don't anymore, but I remember when I was a teenager, I used to love reading through my previous entries. And so I think any kind of sort of journaling does seem to have some benefits. So why not give it a try? So my next tip to stay mentally grounded is to keep your bar green. So what do I mean by this? Well, as a kid, I used to play Sims quite a lot. And in Sims, every sim that you were looking after had this like needs bar or something above its head, which basically indicated overall happiness of your sim. And this took into account lots of different needs of that sim, such as hunger, comfort, bladder, energy, fun, social hygiene, and environment. And each of these different bars were fluctuating throughout the day, whether or not your sim had eaten lunch, had a good night's sleep, had showered, and you wanted your sim to be happy, right? So you wanted to make sure that all of these bars were as green as they could be, because that was a happy sim. And you know, you looked after your sim's needs, but you've got to look after your own needs as well. So make sure you keep your own bars green as well. It's very important. But more important than this, it's so important during a PhD process that you do look after yourself and make sure that you do eat well, that you do sleep well, and that you also fit in some exercise as well, because that will maintain your health levels, prevent you from getting ill, and will help you to be mentally grounded. So, in a similar vein to maintaining your needs, it's also important to factor in some you time, whereas time that you do something that you really do enjoy doing, or where you try something new. So I guess for me, my you time would be making YouTube videos, I suppose. But it could be something as simple as just going for a walk in the sun for like 30 minutes at the weekend. It literally makes all the difference, just having some time with your own thoughts and really evaluating what it is you want out of life. But you don't have to get that deep about it. There are lots of other things that you can do in your spare time, and the point is that it should be something different to your day-to-day work life. So one thing that I think is really good to do is to just read books. Like so much of my undergrad, I forgot how amazing it was to read books. So now I make sure that I fluctuate between reading a fiction and a non-fiction book, because reading is great. Like, you can learn so much from them, and there's plenty of places where you can pick up books pretty much for free. But if reading isn't your thing, there are plenty of other outside activities that you can take part in that really will help you stay mentally grounded, because you literally, whilst you're in that activity, forget about everything else that's going on in your life. So this could be something like taking up a sport, or even just going to the gym, doing a craft activity, learning an instrument, or just listening to music. The thing is, it doesn't really matter as long as it distracts you from the thoughts that you've got about your work. It has to be something entirely different. So one thing that I like doing is listening to music, and in particular, you should definitely go listen, if you haven't already, to Vienna by Billy Joel, because the lyrics, I don't know what it is about them, they literally just like sing to me. So here are a few of them there. Slow down, you crazy child. Take the phone off the hook and disappear for a while. The point is like, you know, we get distracted in this day and age by our phones and by everything that's going on in our lives. We do forget what's important. And the point is, it's alright. You can afford to lose a day or two. You can take some time off to recharge yourself. It's so important take those breaks because that is when the best ideas come. And if we're going to talk about some of my favourite songs, we should also talk about some of my favourite films, which are definitely Pixar films that are up there. And one of my favourite quotes comes from Ratatouille, which is, "The only thing predictable about life is its unpredictability." And I think this quote speaks volumes for a PhD. You know, you start a project and you have no idea where that project's going to go. The point is, you just have to go with the flow and accept that fate. And it's in line with the quote from Dory in Finding Nemo, to just keep swimming. And because I really do love quotes, I'll finish with a quote that's featured at the end of the film Meet the Robinsons by Walt Disney himself. Around here, however, we don't look backwards for very long. We keep moving forward, opening up new doors and doing new things because we're curious. And curiosity keeps leading us down new paths. And so I think, at least in a science PhD, this quote really does summarise the main drive for doing this research is the curiosity, it's the interest, it's the intrigue, what we can discover. So I hope that some of these tips are at least useful for you to help stay mentally grounded. And if you have tips of your own, feel free to share them. I think it's important that we look after each other as well. So as always, thanks for listening.